Let's talk. Nice.
Yeah, and we're back. You don't want one?
That's great flow. Sorry.
You don't have to play crazy radio DJ every week if you don't want.
Yeah. I guess we're not back. No, we are back. We're back. We're back.
There he is. And we're back.
You're listening to the Lion and the Jackal.
Yeah, that's a joke that's been played out, and every time it gets brought back up, it's worth it.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
a Parks and Rec, the douche. Wait, you haven't seen Parks and Rec, have you?
I have not.
Oh my god. Zach, you got to watch this show.
All right.
That's Nick Kroll, who plays the douche, and I won't say too much because I want to spoil it, but like it's the classic DJ. But then as the show develops, you realize like there's the character, like all the other characters in that show, there's like more depth to it. Like how did they get here? And why are they called the douche? It's just like, every time like Leslie Knope's like trying to talk about serious community issues, and it's just all like, he's got like the side guy with the sound effects buttons, like the farts and sex noises and all that stuff. The douche. What was that?
Still funny.
What
were you gonna say?
I was gonna David Cross's character, like
Yeah. It was the something in the Cooter, right?
Cooter and the Bear.
Yes. I feel like that is a joke though that probably has probably limited life left on it as far as like the younger generation goes. I mean, how many people drive to work listening to morning radio anymore? Or maybe I just don't know because I don't drive to work in the morning.
Right. No, I think that's true. I think that like so many people have shifted over to where we are now.
I mean, hopefully they're listening to the Spencer and Zach Explore the Universe podcast on their drive to work.
And if they are listening to it while they're driving to work, we just want everyone who is doing so we just want them to know that we're back.
And you're listening to the Bear and the Cooter.
You're listening to Zajo and the Speenus.
That one might have to stick. I don't know.
I do not want to be stuck with Speenus.
You gave it to yourself, man.
Whatever, it's my problem. Yeah, I'll take it. Zajo and the Speenus. Coming to you live from
SAZETU.
SAZETU.
All right, here's another one from, I don't know,
Yeah.
I can't even think of an obnoxious band.
ICP. Local
Here's
H.
that ICP Bon Jovi team-up record.
Oh, God. Is that a thing?
I don't think so.
That sounds like
Trying to think of
a Hutch
a
Heelan
nightmare scenario.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that is something Hutch would come up with.
So how was your week?
Quite lovely so far, and you?
Enjoying it.
Okay.
It. We've had some rainfall, which has been good.
Yes, I enjoy I like to listen to the rhythm of the falling rain.
Waiting for a brand new start.
That's right.
Yeah, no, especially sleeping while it's raining is the best.
Mm-hmm.
Rainy mornings equals sleepy time. Comfy sleepy time.
I also love a rainy night.
Oh boy, you've really got the pistol loaded today.
But rainy days and Mondays always get me down.
I mean, have you ever seen the rain?
When the rain comes, they run and hide their heads.
Enough.
Anyway, that's how my week's going.
I just unsubscribed.
Yeah. I won't be here next week. You've lost me.
I will not be here.
As a listener. I'll still be here as a co-host.
Yes, right, but I will not be checking the show out next week.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
So yeah, want to talk about our sponsors?
I'd love to do that.
Okay. I'll start. I'll start if that's okay. Can I start?
That's very much okay. Go.
Can I go?
Yep. Anytime.
Can I start? Do you mind?
Whenever you're ready.
Do you mind if I
Stage is
start?
yours. Lights, camera, action.
Begrudgingly, I will
Take
say,
one.
This show used to be brought to you by Maine Spirits. Maine Spirits bring all of the liquors and spirits into the great state of Maine, and they make them available at retail outlets, liquor stores, bars, and restaurants. And at the end of the show, you can stick around, and I will show you how to make a delicious cocktail in the comfort of your own home, which is very handy during these times, as there's a bit of a pandemic on. Don't want to frighten anybody, but it's true. But yeah, stay tuned for happy hour at the end of the show. And additionally, if you want to learn more about Maine Spirits, you can follow them on Instagram at Maine_spirits. You can find them on Facebook, which is a huge piece of shit. And then additionally, you can find them online at mainspirits.com, which is a totally acceptable and normal website full of truthful information. And also they have an app for your smartphone, which is, but not for Zach's wall mount phone.
Well, I was hoping they'd get the wall mount app before the Razor app, but apparently neither of them are available.
I think that they're busy working on the phone booth app.
Oh, gotcha. Well, when that's ready, hopefully the walkie-talkie app is not their next move.
Yeah,
from that.
It's just a guy.
Yeah. This show is also used to be brought to you by Bull Moose Stores. For all of your multimedia needs, Bull Moose, with stores all over Maine and New Hampshire. They are open for retail with safety protocols in place for the pandemic. Or here, let me put this in PC terms. Due to COVID-19, there are safety protocols in place. Also, for more information, check out bullmoose.com for truthful, honest information about Bull Moose stores without getting yelled at by angry people like you would on Facebook, which is terrible.
It's awful.
Just awful.
Hate it. It's like,
instead of memes full of infactual, is that a word? I don't know.
Sure. Non-factual.
Sure.
Incorrect.
Non-factual, incorrect, wrong information. Just whatever. Browse their selection of records and CDs and movies and books and all your needs at bullmoose.com.
Fair. You know how Facebook is like making these announcements that they're trying to police the false information?
Yeah, I feel like I've been reading that for like a decade now.
Yeah. Well, feels like a decade. Shithead's only been president since 2016, so.
Yeah.
That's
I'm not sure. I don't follow. I don't know who you're talking about.
Shit. Did you know? The TV,
is this breaking news?
TV guy's president.
Wait, the guy from the television?
Yeah. He's the president.
Like the guy that was on television before he was president?
Yeah. Yep. Ronald Reagan is president.
Wow. The actor?
The actor? Carl Weathers, the actor, is president.
Oh, man, I would love if Carl Weathers was president.
Way better. Yeah, especially if he only spoke in his dialogue lines from Predator and Arrested Development.
What the country needs to do to get a stew on, baby.
That's right. Yeah, we're also brought to you by. Oh no! So the Facebook thing. So that I saw like an announcement for Facebook fact check. Like somebody posted something like Facebook isn't allowing you to post to say that you're Christian anymore or something. Whatever. It was like something that is not a thing. And Facebook's like, this is not true. Facebook does not mind if you are Christian. It's just like, oh, so you're just fact checking things where people are throwing you under the bus, but everything else is like open season on truth.
Yeah.
I can't wait till
I want to go test that algorithm and just put dumb lies about Facebook up there to see if I get a response.
Yeah, See, I'm tempted to do so, but like also like the only reason I'm on Facebook is to like disseminate information, which I believe to be true, which are things like we have a new episode available, which is true, and
Yeah.
and I think if I don't want to get, I actually maybe I don't care if I get kicked off Facebook. I don't care. I don't care anymore about Facebook. But then, yeah, they also own Instagram.
Well, what do you want to talk about this week?
Oh, I want to mention Suntiki Studios,
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Yes, definitely. Cannot forget the Suntiki Studios.
Forest Avenue in Portland, Top Flight Rehearsal and Performance Studio. And due to COVID-19, they have obviously canceled their show schedule. But in the safe reopening time that we're in right now, they have modified their space to accommodate safe distance rehearsals. So if you want to get the old band back together and see if you can still play a smoking version of Mustang Sally, then SuntikiStudios.com is the place to go. Or you can also find them if you are brave enough to navigate the surging flames of the dumpster fire known as Facebook. They're also on Facebook. And now,
And now,
what do you want to talk about this week was what you asked me. And, I don't know.
well, maybe it's because it's what I wanted to talk about.
Well, it's why, no, we talk about this a lot.
It's true.
Yes.
Well, we had talked about it before, which is why I suggested maybe we talk about it for people to listen to.
Agreed.
Do you want to play the sound, or should we just go right into the conversation?
Let's do the sound. Let's do the sound.
Yeah,
we don't want to make.
Sound.
We want people to know where they are in the world.
Exactly.
The sound will remind them that they're about to look at film strips of a sea anemone. So here we go. Here's the sound. Okie dokie.
What a beautiful sound. Well,
Agreed.
So I can't remember when it was, but probably like over a decade ago. I think the two of us were watching an episode of Family Guy together, and Cleveland came on the screen, and you turned to me, or maybe just said into the room, like, isn't having a white guy voicing a black character like kind of like the modern version of blackface?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really know how to answer that because honestly, I had never ever thought about that until that moment. But at the same time, it's on TV and it happens all the time. So it didn't for some reason, I didn't even really feel challenged to think about it too much further than in that moment. But then cut to 2017, a documentary called The Problem with Apu comes out, where an Indian comedian and filmmaker is looking at the character of Apu in The Simpsons and is like, this is literally the only representation of an Indian character that's regularly seen on American TV, and he's voiced by a white guy doing stereotypes of an Indian person throughout the whole series. And then that kind of generated a little bit of a national conversation specifically about that character. But in the past couple weeks, right now, to catch up with real time, Hank Azaria has said he will no longer be voicing Apu on The Simpsons. Harry Shearer is no longer going to be voicing Dr. Hibbert. And then there's a handful of other cartoons where white actors.
Whoever voiced, I was always under the impression that Seth MacFarlane voiced Cleveland.
Yeah,
on
I actually
Family
have
Guy.
that in front of me. Wait,
Just as you're listening, obviously, Zach and I are not in the same space because there's a pandemic on. So if there are little latency issues where we're dancing around each other, going no, you go, that's what that's all about. And So and then the other one, well, actually, what sparked the conversation, I guess, more recently between us was I saw that. Oh, I should have called up their name. Whatever, I can just put it on the table. There's a character in the show Big Mouth, of which I'm a big fan. It's a great show. And the character is a biracial young girl voiced by a white person who a lot of us would know as John Ralphio Saperstein's. Oh, you haven't seen the show? Never mind.
No.
No, but people out there. I probably should be more prepared. You talk for a second. I'm gonna call this info up.
I was actually trying to find some of it for you real quick while you're talking.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
But I do have a list here of some characters. So obviously we mentioned Apu, voiced by Hank Azaria. I actually have not seen BoJack Horseman. I've heard it's very funny.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently there's a character named Diane Nguyen, who is voiced by Alison Brie. I apologize if I just slaughtered that last name. Not Brie, but the character's last name. Cleveland, as we mentioned, is played by Mike Henry. I always thought that was Seth MacFarlane as well. But it's another white guy named Mike Henry. We have on King of the Hill, Khan, the neighbor, is voiced by a white man named Toby Huss. We have, I mentioned Dr. Hibbert, Harry Shearer. Rick Sanchez from Rick and Morty, voiced by Justin Roiland. Roiland is his name. I didn't realize that Rick was I guess I've never really watched Rick and Morty.
Yeah, I don't.
Is it okay to say that?
Yeah, I don't. I have not. Rick and Morty's like kind of in my queue to watch.
Yeah. There's also Dr. Wong is a character on Rick and Morty, who is voiced by Susan Sarandon. I didn't realize they got such big name actresses on that show. Marshmallow, a character on Bob's Burgers, voiced by Dan Herman, who was the guy from Office Space, the nerdy computer guy.
Oh wow,
was he? He was Michael Bolton. Yeah,
Michael Bolton.
Yeah. And I mentioned Carl. No, I didn't mention Carl from The Simpsons, also voiced by Hank Azaria. And also the Bumblebee Man on The Simpsons, voiced by Hank Azaria. The entire cast of, or most of the characters in Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Legend of Korra, which I've also never seen. Most of those characters are all white actors. So there's a lot of them out there.
So, see, I went into this conversation thinking that it was just Apu, but apparently there's more. Just kidding.
It turns out.
the character on Big Mouth is Missy, and it was voiced by Jenny Slate. And one of the tenets of Big Mouth is it's a very like inclusive show. So I was not surprised to see them. Actually, she just made the announcement herself, and I saw it via Nick Kroll, who also plays the douche on Parks and Rec. But so that kind of like kicked up this conversation as like, I think I spoke to you about that, and then like later that night, like The Simpsons fell into place, and you sent me that link, and so kind of like
and then the Cleveland one I think was right around the same time. It may have been the same day that the Family Guy one and the Simpsons one were announced. So it seemed like an obvious place to go.
Sure. Yeah, so I watched, I had not heard of that documentary, The Problem with Apu, so I watched that in preparation to have this discussion. So, I mean, whereas it's still kind of like soaking in, I'm not going to, well, I mean, we can pull the camera away from just the problem with Apu. Like, I am not an expert on this topic at all. It's all still soaking in, and I'm.
I would add that I am also not an expert on this topic.
Fair,
but I think it's worthy of conversation. If maybe we get it going, and then the experts pick it up and run with it. I guess.
Right.
Tell us what we got wrong or what we got right.
Yeah. Well, I think I know that it's been meaningful for me. For you and I to have conversations about these matters, especially like, I mean, we've been friends for a long time. We've talked about these things on and off, in between choosing flavors of combos and, which Roland Emmerich movie we were going to watch.
For the 10th time.
For the 10th time. But it's meaningful for me to like hear where your head's at, and also for me to like kind of talk about being a white dude and how how do I don't know, try to do the good thing and where my head's at, and I don't know, just our conversations are very meaningful to me.
Well, they're very meaningful to me as well.
Well, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I would be happy to continue our friendship if you are interested in. If you want to continue friendship, dear Zach, do you want to continue friendship? Yes, no, maybe.
Well, I'm going to hold on to that note and wait to the end of this conversation before I check yes or no.
Nothing like waiting till the end of class to get that note back.
I don't want the teacher to take it away.
Oh, yeah. That might be an option. The podcast teacher is going to take our show away.
Exactly. So yeah, it's interesting because like, you know, we grew up in the same town, which is a predominantly white town. The only the mostly not white thing in that town is me and my family and a few other families.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, you know, there's a lot of things that I grew up around like accepting as normal because I knew no different until I got out of that and saw more of the world. And by the world, I mean, I guess the rest of the country, very little of the rest of the world. And I probably never will get a chance to see the world now. They're telling us we can't travel there because of this,
the
problem we've got going on.
Sad side note, the last place I traveled to before this whole shit show was fucking Florida.
Aww.
And not even like the middle.
Yeah.
Specifically,
didn't even get to spend the day on the beach.
No. No, I spent I know this is a whole different episode where I went to in Florida, but like not a lot of what I feel my values were represented apparently in what I was seeing.
Yeah.
Put it there.
Yes. Very different than our York, Maine upbringing.
Yes, quite.
But I guess, yeah, there's a lot of things that, I guess a lot of like normalized racism that I grew up around that didn't strike me as racist because it was just every day. And it wasn't until I was kind of removed from that I could reflect on it and be like, oh, look at that. That was racist. Didn't even realize it. Mm-hmm. You know, and like even things like the way, you know, some treatment I got even from friends and teachers and stuff like that, or just that, you know, I'm trying to think of just like a subtle example. I mean, even things just like hey, can I feel your hair? Sure. Or the kid that comes back from the Caribbean vacation with a tan and is like, hey, look, I'm almost as dark as you.
Yeah,
you know, like they put their arms up. It's like stuff like that. And I was just like, oh, yeah, that's silly. He's almost as dark as me. And then I'm like, wait a minute. That was racist.
You stop in your tracks 5 feet away, like, doing. Yeah. I mean, I had people asking to rub their hands through my hair, but that's only because I had, like, very famously at the time, very rich, like almost horse-like mane of golden
flowing.
Yeah. But it's different. I mean, that was like, it's different.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was like one of my earliest experiences in elementary school was like a first grader making fun of my curly hair. Mm-hmm. And that always like kind of stuck with me. But then after that, it was always just like even friends and people that were just like, hey, can I touch your hair? Mm-hmm. So, you know, like the first time that somebody called attention to it was, making fun of it. And then after that, that always stuck with me a little bit when people were just like, yeah, would draw attention to it even in a friendly manner. And of course now I just don't have any hair. So I don't know. Maybe I'd want to go back to those days.
Yeah. But whatever hair you have left, I don't want to touch. So I won't be asking.
But but there's always been I've always been aware of a lack of representation on television, and luckily, like we grew up in an era where like the Cosby Show was successful and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was successful and Family Matters and stuff like that. I know I've mentioned that before, but I think those actually did play a part in like, you know, painting a positive image of, you know, middle-class black families. But then there was always, you know, for the most part, most mainstream movies, there wasn't a black character. And if there was, they were killed early in the film if it was an action movie. Mm-hmm. You know, like even Carl Weathers can't make it through Predator. Like,
that's right. Bill Duke. So I mean, isn't Arnie like, no, I guess he's like one of like 3 white dudes, 4 in the cast. But yeah, like most of the, I mean, Bill Duke made it almost to the end.
Yeah. I mean, I was in a hotel room one time on a tour, and we had the day off, or we got there early before we had to do something. And so we were just laying in the hotel room watching. There was like a movie marathon on one of the channels, and all 3 movies that we saw that afternoon were movies where Carl Weathers dies.
Oh no.
So it was like, I think we turned it on when Predator was on, then it was Rocky 4, and then Happy Gilmore. It's just like, I can't believe they just played a marathon of movies of Carl Weathers getting killed.
Oh, God. Like on one hand, you want to be like, oh, that was probably coincidence, but then like it's not hard to like put your tinfoil hat on.
Yeah.
You know?
But yeah, so I guess like in movies and TV outside of like the black-centric shows, there's always been like a lack of representation that I've always been kind of aware of. But the cartoon character thing like never really occurred to me until, that even black actors and, people of color actors can't get jobs voicing cartoon characters because of whitewashing. And obviously, like, whitewashing happened in Hollywood since forever. White actors playing different races and ethnicities. But yeah, it's weird that it never occurred to me about cartoons until you brought it up that time. And even since then is really just kind of become back on my radar with the Problem with Apu documentary.
Yeah, and then also like where the conversation is going to such to the point that these various actors, white actors, are realizing like, wait a minute, part of the problem, course correct, which is, respectable. I would say, and it feels like the right thing to do. At one point they brought up in the I forget which one of his guests in the Problem with Apu, and it was this woman was saying something to the effect of forget about the who's voicing what, right? It's the intent of the character. And that's really like, especially where Apu's like super like troubling. And it's also one of those things where it's like, I mean, I grew up with that and didn't really start to think about it until, I grew up, I guess,
Yeah, same.
but like, that was like, I didn't really have any access to, like Indian people, growing up, like in real time, and only more recently, more recently in the past, like 20 years of my gallivanting about the U.S. have I had more exposure to more cultures, but yeah, like that voice, that Apu voice was like, that's a thing that I did it. I have done it.
Same.
And I'm not gonna blame The Simpsons for it, like, but if context means anything, and I think it does, like I did grow up in a tiny, mostly white town, and I think this is the problem that the documentary addresses, is that my exposure to Indian culture, I mean, beyond the Beatles, and I knew who Ravi Shankar was and all that stuff, but so aside from the music that I was taking in, like my only exposure to an Indian character or a person, the only representation was a stereotype voiced by a white guy. Or according to the documentary, voiced by a white guy doing an impression of a white guy doing an impression of that person's dad.
Yeah. I found it interesting that one of the big, of the many offenses of that character, one of the things that spoke so personally to the filmmaker was that he thought it was like Hank Azaria doing an impression, or basically making fun of his parents.
Right.
He's like, my parents came to this country from India and like had to struggle past all those language barriers and had to like fight for their opportunities and all this stuff. And then what that got reduced to was, the Quickie Mart guy on The Simpsons. But then when he confronted his parents about it, and they were not as upset by it as he was, or they just didn't take it as personally, I guess. Like, I can't remember, his mom said something really deep about what we needed to go through just to get, where we could raise you
right
here and bring you up right. So
well,
like,
he posed it in the form of a question. Like he asked, like, how come you don't seem so offended by it? And she explained why, because like we had this opportunity to come here and everything you just said. And then he asked her, his mom, like, so why are we not tolerant of it? And she pointed out, like, because you belong here. You're an American, and you have more security. Is that the part you were referencing?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I found that pretty deep, I guess. Like, because I expected when he confronted his parents with it, I thought they were gonna like, be horrified, just the same as as I was by the end of that movie. And I found her answer to be really deep, and it made a lot of sense too. Like, we gave you the opportunity to be born as an American, and this is you now, so you have the right to be offended by that. Oh, hey, didn't see you there. Well, since we're here, I'm Zach from Zach and Spencer Explore the Universe, and I'm here with your Bull Moose Minute for the week of July 6th. So what do we have this week? Well, let me put it this way. If you are a Grateful Dead fan, you are going to be psyched. You've got all the records, you've got your bootleg collection, you've listened to every note, you've memorized every nuance. Well, this week we have the 50th anniversary of Grateful Dead, Working Man's Dead. The CD includes a full concert from around that time. The vinyl version is a picture disc with the original album only. Also this week, Charlie Kaufman, Antkind, a novel, a hardcover novel. This is the first novel by the screenwriter of Being John Malkovich. The book appears to be equally disorienting and wonderfully strange. Darker, though. But that's not all. Bull Moose has all of your needs taken care of. Books, CDs, LPs, posters, t-shirts, coffee mugs, you name it, Bull Moose has it. Stores throughout Maine and New Hampshire, and they are currently available for indoor retail with safety precautions in place for the pandemic that is going on. And also, just go to bullmoose.com and have a world of fun. Bullmoose.com, your Bull Moose Minute. Thank you. So I would argue that if acting were truly an equal opportunity field, and characters were cast appropriately, I would think that like cross race or cross cultural casting wouldn't be as big of a problem. Like, if black actors and Asian actors and everything were getting just as many roles as white actors, then it really could just come down to like who best inhabits this character. And hopefully that would still fall on like, the right race. But I don't know if it would be quite as offensive if we lived in that world versus right now, Indian Americans had no choice in how they were portrayed because the only character they got was Apu. And that's the same thing that's been, happening to black characters throughout time and Asian characters and not just on cartoons, on actual television, even when, television and movies, like even when people of color are cast in roles, they're still, working with, white executives, white directors, white crew, white writers. And so they're still forced to like conform to whatever the stereotypical image that, the people in charge want to be portrayed are.
I feel like there's a shift. It's shifting.
Definitely.
And I mean, I agree with what you're saying. Like, if were the playing field more leveled, which it is not, then that might be a different conversation. But I just don't think that's the conversation that we need to have right now.
True.
And I think...
I guess just if there was like 100 popular Indian characters on TV, it probably wouldn't be as troublesome that Apu is voiced by Hank Azaria. I mean, it would because it's still stereotypical.
Yeah,
but
no, I think it would. I think
Yeah.
I don't think Apu would have been voiced by Hank Azaria.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
If more like I think this is something that you and I discussed within the past week, but like, would there not be an Indian American actor who would like to voice that role and then also would be able to bring like an experiential knowledge to the character?
Oh yeah, so much more nuance and experience and like jokes that run deeper than surface level because they actually understand the culture and
Yeah,
for sure.
The Apu character could have existed in Springfield in like another context, for sure. Because another thing about the Apu character is that he's often bringing light to racisms and spreading knowledge, but it's just the context. It's all wrong, and it's one of those things where like I feel like they tried to justify it for so long, and be like, oh, he's beloved. They even tried to address it in the show. And I also brought this up to you, like, aren't all of the characters in The Simpsons yellow except for Apu?
Yeah, and Dr. Hibbert and Carl. Yeah, there's like 3 or 4 characters that are brown skinned, and everybody else is yellow.
Right. So I thought one of the points of The Simpsons was that it was a level playing field because everyone was just like a yellow character. You know what I mean? Like the emojis, but like to have them be those characters specifically be singled out seems I don't know, that makes me feel a little weird. I'll pass the mic.
Yeah,
to you.
especially and all of the other characters are almost all of the other characters of color on that show are also based on stereotypes. Like the Bumblebee Man, also voiced by Hank Azaria. And like Dr. Hibbert was supposed to be like Cliff Huxtable, so I mean that was a very specific target, I guess, but still, it was a white person doing an impression of what he thought Bill Cosby looked like on the Cosby Show. Have you ever heard the story about Nichelle Nichols of Star Trek fame and Martin Luther King?
Go on. You had me at Star Trek.
I thought I would. I thought said the magic words. So,
everything till now has been like Star Trek.
I'm in.
Just kidding.
So, as you may be aware, even today, but more so in 1966, there were very few black people on TV that weren't, especially black women that weren't like maids or like housekeepers or whatever roles that they were lucky to get. And then Star Trek came along in 1966. Nichelle Nichols was cast as Lieutenant Uhura, who is the communications officer on the bridge. I know I'm not telling you this. I'm telling any listeners that may not be as up to date on Star Trek. I want to say she might be 4th in command of the Enterprise. Because there's like Kirk, Scotty, and then I think it's usually Sulu after Scotty, and then Uhura, I think. Like there's an episode of the animated series where Uhura actually takes control of the Enterprise. But anyway, yeah, she's played by a black woman, communications officer, and there are no specifically black tropes or stereotypes aimed at that character. But in the first season, she wasn't getting a lot of lines, and she had left, Broadway or whatever, the stage shows that she was doing to be on the TV show. And she felt she wasn't getting enough screen time and saying enough lines, so she was going to leave the show. And apparently she wrote a letter to Gene Roddenberry. It was like, I'm out after season 1. And she was I think it was an NAACP dinner or something like that. And somebody was like, hey, there's a really big Star Trek fan here who would like to meet you. And she was like, okay, whatever, bring in the nerd. And it's Martin Luther King.
No shit.
Yeah. And he's like, I just wanted to tell you, I love you on the show, and like we watch it every night, and like you're the only show that like I let my kids watch like after a certain time and all that. And she's like, oh, I'm happy to hear that. I'm leaving after the season. I won't be on for the rest of it. And he was just like, what? He's like, you can't leave the show. And she's like, why not? He's like, because you are a black woman in a command role on television. You're not a maid, or you're not.
Right.
He's like, if you leave that show, they will recast that, that position, but it doesn't necessarily need to be a black person. They could put anybody in that role because it's not a black role. It's just a role. And that's incredibly important. And then Whoopi Goldberg actually cited that as one of her inspirations. She was like, I saw Nichelle Nichols on Star Trek, and that was one of the first times I saw a black woman not playing a maid. And I was like, oh, I can be in television too. I can do these things. And so she actually asked to be on Star Trek The Next Generation because it was Star Trek that made her want to get into entertainment in the first place. But that's like, I don't know how important, I guess, representation is. And it's weird to think of, traditionally the amount of whitewashing that's been happening through history, and the fact that it's led it fed into cartoon characters that we're still seeing in 2020. But I guess I'm glad that we're finally taking a step to address those things.
I had heard none of that.
Yeah.
And if I didn't think Martin Luther King Jr. were cool enough already to now have the bond that we're both Star Trek nerds, is like, awesome.
Also, Nichelle Nichols, if you didn't think she was cool enough already, she was also like, she went to some like event at NASA or something because of her Star Trek association, and she was looking around and she was like, "Hey NASA, where are all the women? Where are all the black people?" And they were like, "Oh yeah, I don't know. We don't, we have had trouble recruiting people, or we don't have anybody that's." And so they were like, she was like, "Let me be your spokesman." She became a NASA recruiter and actually went out and recruited a bunch of women and black people to be in NASA. So
that's amazing.
That's how cool she is too. Yeah.
Wow. So, Hank Azaria.
Yes.
Let's
go on and do the.
Let's take it from this nerdy Star Trek conversation and bring it over to The Simpsons.
Yeah.
So I'm not the hugest Simpsons fan in the world, but I do. I've watched it many times over the. I mean, it's been around for 28 years, almost 30 years now.
Yeah.
And it was like a big part of my, like, it was like pop culture. It was huge. It was everywhere. It was like, the '89 Batman. That was we've referenced before or will in the future. But yeah, I've always enjoyed it. And one of the tenets of the show that I enjoyed the most is that they were edgy and they challenged norms, and they were really good at calling people out and calling shitty things out, or calling attention to shitty things. But so it's just it is kind of strange that they would allow themselves to kind of overlook this one kind of like glaring error, and then when they bring attention to it, like not really just like taking pause and saying, you know what, like, because they've been justifying Apu for a long time, right?
I mean, I think some of that comes down to the lack of representation in the writer's room, though, too. It's like, I think they say in the documentary that, yes, Barney is a, stereotypical drunk, Homer is a stereotypical buffoon, and, but they run the whole gamut of, there's a lot of different views of what it's possible, I guess, for, like, the stereotypical white person to be. But when it comes down to, like, Apu or any of the black characters, it's like, the writers and the actors don't have the experience, they don't have the know-how, and because there's so few characters of color, a color that's not yellow, they're pigeonholed into just one view versus like the variety of views that you get with all the other characters on the show.
Again, not an expert on the topic, and very much a student in these times, speaking for myself now.
I think all of us are students in this time, except for the experts.
Right. But even they're experts because they're learning, right?
Exactly.
But I would say, I don't know, if you were to ask me if it's cool if white people voice black characters, I'm just going to say nope.
Yeah, I'm going to say no as well, even though I accepted it my entire life up to like a handful of years ago.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of feelings about it, but I just feel like, I don't know, this seems, let's continue to create space to be filled. And when I say let's, I'm talking to white people. Because I can talk about white people things, and I feel like very clearly what we have been experiencing, or at least aspects of what we've been experiencing till now, and the majority of how we're carrying ourselves as a society it's just not fair, and it's not working. So this is a good time to roll up the sleeves and get to work, figure it out.
Agreed. I think we need to normalize the conversation of acknowledging and correcting racist things. Like as I was saying at the beginning, the things I experienced growing up in York, they were so normalized to me that I didn't realize they were racist. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the same thing with the characters, like the cartoon characters voiced by white actors. It's like, it's been happening my whole life. It's so normalized. No one's ever said, hey, should we stop and think about this for a second? Mm-hmm. So just kind of accepted it until you step outside of the bubble and look at it from a bigger picture. And you're like, oh, okay, I see what's going on. So yeah, I'm with you. Still learning, not an expert, but I say no to
Is this our Siskel and Ebert review of of cross-racial casting?
Yeah. Zach and Spencer give it 2 no's.
2 thumbs down. Way down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. I think that's a conversation.
I feel like we just had one.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
I feel good. I mean, hopefully it's a conversation starter for others, and we can continue talking about it for the next 20 years of our friendship and beyond.
I think let's cap it at 20.
All right. Yeah, let's not get greedy here.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, like, it's already been almost 20. Like, what, really? More than 20 more?
I don't know if I can handle that.
So sad. Like I'm now going to look to 23 years in the future. I guess I would be 20 years in the future knowing that it's just going to come to an end, what that looks like.
Yeah.
Like, even though, like, maybe we're both fine, but we just don't get to be friends anymore because we made a pact 20 years prior. That was enough.
Because the paper that you gave me that said yes, no, maybe, I had a definitive end date on it.
And you never gave it back.
Aww.
Well, all right. Bye.
Yeah. Bye. Let's talk about We'll go with some lighter subject matter next week.
Yeah. Like what? I don't know.
I guess you're just going to have to click subscribe if you haven't already.
To tune in to next week's hot topic. Well, it's like, I think, let me put this here.
Sign off.
Let me put this here. That this is a conversation that you and I have in and around all of the planning for the show. It's like a constant topic of conversation, especially now for obvious reasons. And one thing, Zach and I are having this conversation, and we also want to be part of the conversation, but we also recognize that we are experts in light entertainment. So this is hopefully people find an acceptable way to talk about it. And I don't know. And I'll also say, like, sitting here with a microphone in front of my face, recording a conversation about matters of race, I am uncomfortable.
I can't wait till our 20-year reunion of the recording this, where we get to sit down and listen to it.
Oh,
wow!
Whoa! like everything we said is just horrendously unacceptable.
Oh no!
Why would I say that? Why would I say it?
Why was that okay?
What was I thinking? I'm so sorry. I have to make some phone calls.
I owe some apologies all over the place.
I feel terrible. All right, now bye.
All right, bye.
It's time for Happy Hour, presented by Maine Spirits. We're going to do a little primer, and then we're going to give you a drink. We're going to do an infusion this week. So you might want to, listen to this, do the infusion, then come back, listen again, and make the drink. But we're going to make a strawberry-infused rum, okay? So we're going to cut off the stems of 15 to 20 fresh strawberries and slice in half or quarters if they're very large. Decant 1 750 milliliter bottle of white rum into a large glass jar. Save the bottle now. Save the bottle. Spoiler alert. Now add the strawberries and let the mixture sit in the fridge for 3 to 5 days. Then, because you'll see it look really red, you'll know, strain out the strawberries and store the finished infusion in the original bottle in the fridge. Now, normally you don't have to put liquor in the fridge, but now it has vegetables in it, so you want it to keep. It'll keep for a while. Now that we've made that, let's fast forward. That was stupid. We're going to make a drink called the Birds in Paradise. Here's the tools you're going to need to make this drink. You're going to need a shaker, a jigger, a strainer, and a rocks glass. For ingredients, you'll need the strawberry-infused white rum. You'll need Campari, fresh lime juice, and simple syrup. Let's build this thing. Add 2 ounces of strawberry-infused white rum, 1 ounce of Campari, 3/4 of an ounce of fresh lime juice, and 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup to a shaker full of ice and shake until very cold. Now, strain over fresh ice in a rocks glass and garnish with a strawberry slice or lime wheel, or both. Knock yourself out. Let's take a sip. It is so refreshing. It's so summer. It's very now. It's so now. It's so now, this drink. This has been Happy Hour, brought to you by Maine Spirits. You can learn more about these cocktails and other cocktails at mainspirits.com. You can download their app for your smartphone and get cruising the worldwide net on their app. And additionally, you can follow them on Instagram at main_spirits.com. And as always, we encourage you to drink deliciously and responsibly. Spencer and Zach Explore the Universe is brought to you by Maine Spirits. You can visit them online at mainspirits.com or download their app or visit them on Instagram at main_spirits. The show is also brought to you by Bull Moose, serving Maine and New Hampshire's music, movie, video game, and book and trinket needs since 1782. Also brought to you by Sun Tiki Studios at 375 Forest Avenue or at suntikistudios.com. Spencer and Zach Explore the Universe is a Mistakes Were Made production.